The Cowboys have as many wins as the rest of the teams in the NFC East combined. Stephon Diggs of the Cowboys is setting records, and Mike McCarthy proves once again that a mediocre coach can make a living off of star quarterbacks. All this and more on the Horsemen Pro Football Talk podcast. All right, here we go. Welcome back to another edition of the Horsemen Pro Football Talk podcast. This is week 7 of the 2021 NFL season. I'm Brad.
And I'm Hefe.
All right, we want to invite you to join our Patreon community. There you can find all of our stuff in one nice, neat little place. Help support us, show us that you're into what we're doing, and we'd love to hear for you. So we've got individual game analysis, Fantasy Central, weekly pick'em contests, so much more. Like I said, all in one place. Go to horsemansports.com right now and join us. We certainly appreciate the support. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, before you go, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you never miss any content. And you can find us on Facebook and Twitter at Horseman Sports. And oh, by the way, did we mention you can catch both shows back to back, the weekly breakdown and Fantasy Central with Zach and Hefe on WUBI Ubiquity Radio on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can find more information about that at wubi.live. Okay, so as always, we get started with our weekly pigskin pick'em leaders, and we'd like to give a big shout out to Trey Davis. It looks like he may get this one. I don't know who he's going to pick up for Monday night. You got any speculation on that?
Well, seeing as how the Bills are absolutely slaughtering everybody they're playing right now, I assume everybody picked them.
I assume they did too. So Trey's probably going to wrap this week up. So big shout out to Trey. Congratulations. We appreciate you playing along, and we appreciate your support. So, and again, as a reminder to everyone, our program is always recorded on Monday afternoon prior to the Monday night game. So anything we say here today is before we have any information about this evening. So just keep that in mind. I want to run down some news real quick. The Cowboys get a much deserved bye week this week. And I say much deserved. We absolutely bust Cowboys fans' balls on this show. Because it's been like 87 years since they've won a Super Bowl or something ridiculous. But the Cowboys, might be an NFC contender. That if they can, their offense is explosive. Their defense is just getting better. And they might be able to pull this together, and they may make a run. And I'm kind of excited to see that. For all the jokes we make about Cowboys fans, I'd like to see programs come together. Especially when they come out of nothing, you don't expect anything. And with the way the disaster the NFC East was last year, it's just exciting to watch, whether you like them or whether you don't. But damn, dude, let's talk about Diggs.
Yeah, Trayvon Diggs is an animal. I mean, it seems like the only person in the league that's even matching at all what he's doing so far this year is Darius Leonard. He's been involved in turnovers in the last 5 games. It's what Trayvon's doing, especially getting the interception, the pick sixes, pretty much every other game at this point, and completely saving the Cowboys in that game against the Patriots. I mean, it was what he's doing right now is insane. It'll be interesting to see if he can do it for an entire season. If he can, then my pick for Defensive Player of the Year will be wrong, because Myles Garrett is having a pretty good season himself, but Trayvon Diggs just doing so good right now that he has to be the leader for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah. I want to run down some of these stats of what he did yesterday. And for those not paying attention yesterday, he had his 7th interception of the season. And it was a pick six, right? Yeah, he ran it back as well. 7th of the season. He's had one in all 6 games. His 7 interceptions are tied for the most in any team's first 6 games in the Super Bowl era. He ties Rod Woodson. Pretty good company when your name's mentioned in a sentence with Rod Woodson, who did it in 1993. He joins Minnesota safety Brian Russell from 2003 as the only player with 1 or more interception in each of the team's first 6 games of a season. Obviously, if he's going to break, if he gets another one next game, obviously he breaks that record. He's the only player in the Super Bowl era to have 7+ interceptions and multiple returns for interception return for a touchdown in the team's first 6 games of a season. So he did break that record. It's pretty remarkable what's happening. I didn't think it was going to happen yesterday. It happened at the very end. I bet Mac Jones wishes he had that one back.
Yeah. Well, and if we're talking about, Trayvon Diggs here and the pick six he had yesterday, you mentioned Mac Jones. You got to talk about the next play that the Patriots had on offense because Kendrick Bourne hit a double move on Trayvon Diggs and burned him deep for a touchdown. So, a little give and take there yesterday.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to add one more thing about the Cowboys. Mike McCarthy's the GOAT. All right. He's the GOAT at using stellar quarterbacks to make him look like he knows what he's doing. And I want to give him a big Pat McAfee round of applause. He did it. He did it in Green Bay. He's doing it in Dallas. Part of the game is finding people to make you look good. And he's done that. So just toying with the guy. Again, I'm excited to see what the Cowboys are going to do the rest of the year.
Yeah, it seems like they are going to be very legit this year. Like if they didn't shoot themselves in the foot a couple times in that game against the Patriots, they would have won that thing by 2, 3, maybe even 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, let's. With all that said, let's get into the games this week. Our first game up is in light of what happened yesterday, is a very interesting game. It's the Broncos at the Browns. Both teams coming off an unexpected loss at home. The Browns looked lackluster against the Cardinals, and the Broncos, I don't know. The Raiders just shredded them. Just had their way with them, which is what the Raiders from weeks 1 to 3 would have done. Then there was a drop off. And then you have a distraction with the whole email scandal and Gruden's resignation. You think the whole thing's in shambles and you expect them to go on a 7-game skid, and they come out and beat the Broncos at home. I'm sure. I didn't expect them to do what they did to the Broncos defense yesterday, let alone in Mile High. And what's up with the Browns, man? I expected at least a better performance. I picked them to win, but I didn't. And if they lost, it's not a big deal. But it was a little more top heavy than I expected, and I picked both the Broncos and the Browns. So anyway, I like what the Broncos are doing, but I believe the Browns right now are a tier above them, and I believe the Browns are contenders. So they're going to be at home. Not to say the Broncos can't win this game, but either way, it should be a good game. But I'm going to go with the Browns.
Now, this game is tough for me, right? Because I'm a Browns guy. I want to see the Browns winning games, especially because at the current moment they're last in the NFC North or the AFC North, excuse me. But look, they're injury riddled. Baker's shoulder. I heard it got dislocated again. They had to pop it back in. He already has the partially torn labrum. So he's getting dangerously close to having to have surgery on that shoulder before he has irreparable damage to it. They're missing Kareem Hunt. He's already been ruled out for at least 3 weeks. And coming on a short week, there's no telling if they're going to have Nick Chubb or either of the tackles that they were missing in that Sunday game. They could have him back, could push him back in the lineup because they're so injury depleted. But if you don't have those key guys, and with some of the injuries that they've had on defense, I just think the Broncos are talented enough to be able to come in here and win. And I checked the weather on this game in Cleveland for that night, and it's supposed to be between 15 and 20-mile-an-hour winds that night. So, if you're missing Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, I feel like Broncos have the edge on the ground game, which they're going to have to utilize. And I think the Broncos go into Cleveland and get the upset.
Oh, wow. That's wasn't expecting that coming from you, Hefe, to be honest with you.
Yeah, neither was I, man.
Yeah, I mean, you have a solid point with the Browns. A big thing for their offense is the run game, and Nick Chubb not being there definitely hurt them against Arizona. I haven't looked at the injury report for this upcoming week, but yeah, if Nick Chubb's not there, Kareem Hunt, I know he's dealing with an injury as well. If both those guys are not 100% or not even in the game at all, that's definitely going to swing in favor for the Denver Broncos. So I'll be monitoring that situation. I may switch my pick depending on how they go. But overall, the Broncos, the three teams that they beat starting out were the New York Giants, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the New York Jets. And they've since lost 3 straight after that and haven't looked good at all. So for that reason alone, and the 3 losses for Cleveland have been Kansas City, Los Angeles Chargers, and Arizona Cardinal, 3 of the best teams in the entire league. So for that reason alone, I'm going to go with the Browns. But if Chubb and Hunt are both out, I may definitely switch this pick.
You may definitely.
Might definitely. I got to keep people confused,
Yeah, well, you can always go back. It's a politician's maneuver. It's a Trump maneuver. You can be like, no, wait a minute, I didn't say that. I said that. Well, you don't say exactly. I didn't say that. You just say I said that.
Yeah, exactly.
Complete misdirection. So I'm with you there. I'm gonna pick up that trick as well. All right, Zach. Go ahead.
Can we all agree? Zach mentioned who the Broncos played in the first 3 games and in the last 3 games. I think we can all agree that the Broncos were the biggest pretenders of the group, right?
It appears to be that way, yes. I mean, obviously it's only week 7, but yeah, I would say because the 3 teams you beat are the 3 worst teams in the entire league. Well, minus the Lions.
Yeah, but I still like what the Broncos. I mean, I don't have any dreams of grandeur. I don't think that they might make the playoffs. I doubt that's going to happen. But I think they're headed in the right direction. At least I hope they are. I don't know. I could have no idea what I'm talking about either. So we'll just move on. It's not that important. All right. So Zach and I are taking the Browns. Maybe definitely taking the Browns. And Hefe's taking the Broncos. All right. Next game up. The Washington football team at the Green Bay Packers. As I said earlier, the Cowboys have as many wins as the rest of the NFC East teams combined. The Eagles and Washington both have 2 wins, and the Giants just have 1. Again, though, I like what Washington football team is doing. I think, I mean, it's taken a little longer than I initially anticipated, but all the signs appear that Rivera is building something, moving in the right direction. It's just at a snail's pace, it appears. So it's not going to happen at an accelerated rate. Their game against the Chiefs showed they're not ready to compete with elite teams. And Green Bay, despite the fact they've had a few struggles, they're not near their peak, which is probably good for Green Bay. If they're going to peak later in the season, they're still one of the top teams in the league. There's no chance Washington beats Green Bay in Green Bay. And Rodgers, who reminded Bears fans that he owns them yesterday, will own the Washington football team this Sunday, and which is good timing because they need a new owner anyway, right? Right? We got to get Snyder out. And we'll get and Rodgers can own the Washington football team.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good idea. In this game, this one seems pretty simple, right? I mean, not a whole lot to talk about. You have Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. The Packers are 5-1 right now in Washington. is a 2-4 football team that from week to week you can't figure them out. Their defense has not been good this year, so I expect Aaron Rodgers to hang quite a few points up on them, and Green Bay gets the easy home win.
Yeah, wasn't Washington the team you were flip-flopping every week or so on your picks with?
Yep.
That streak ended last week with the throttling the Chiefs put on them, huh?
Yep, that streak was broken.
Yeah, well, now they're getting ready to start a new streak, and it's called the losing streak because Aaron Rodgers is going to go in there and just absolutely demolish this Washington football team. I don't know what happened to their defense, man. Last year, their defense was a top 5 D, and this year, it's completely awful. In my newest updated defensive rankings, I have them ranking dead last now in the passing game, and they're about 19th in the rushing game. So that's not good when it comes to facing somebody like Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones. Those Aaron boys are going to put it on them, and it's going to get ugly. I'm taking the Pack all day.
All right. We are all three taking the Packers, and you should too. All right. So the next game up is the Chiefs and the Titans. You know, on paper, this is a no-brainer. The Chiefs manhandled Washington, as we just said. They're still the Chiefs. They can absolutely destroy you. And they have some kinks they got to work out. But the Titans have some serious issues. But they still also have Henry and Tannehill and Julio Jones, and they are playing in Tennessee. And I think the Titans are one of those teams that they have the ability to start getting things turned in the right direction. Anytime now, midseason, this is where you want to start really putting in production. This game has a potential upset element to it. But based on what we've seen, I'm not going to go with some gut instinct or spirit told me or some crazy shit like that. I'm going to have to go with the Chiefs. Besides, the Colts need the help in the AFC South race.
Yeah, Chiefs win here would be big for the Colts for sure. But look, I just think, it's just my opinion. I thought the offense worked better with Darrell Williams as the lead runner. With Clyde Edwards-Helaire out, he's thrusted into a started role, and I thought they were able to be more balanced. He's a more physical runner, somebody that they can use between the tackles, but he can also catch the ball and fill that role. He can get to the outside and get in space, and he's great at the goal line. They've used him at the goal line for years at this point. I think he should be the starter, and CEH should be the change of pace guy behind him. That probably won't end up happening. Andy Reid, would be a better coach for that team than I would ever be. But that's just my opinion, and I think they're going to come into this game. This is probably going to be a pretty high-scoring game with the way the Chiefs' defense is. I mean, the Titans are getting back Julio Jones and A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry all on the field at the same time, and we'll get to see what that offense looks like tonight after we get done recording this. And I just don't think that the Titans are going to be able to stop the Chiefs enough in this game to keep them off the scoreboard. It's going to be one I would definitely take the over for this game, and I would take the Chiefs to win.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of echo the same sentiment that Hefe has here. Both teams are trying to definitely kickstart their season because they're both about 500 right now. And I think out of the two teams, which one would do that first would probably be the Kansas City Chiefs. Their 3 losses came against Baltimore Ravens in a 1-point loss. Los Angeles Chargers, they lost by 6, and then they got whooped by Buffalo in a weather delayed game. But the Titans, man, they lost to New York in overtime. They haven't really been playing too well. They should have lost a game to Indianapolis, but that was Indianapolis' fault, which we've discussed that many times. They got blown out by Arizona week 1. So I'm not big on the Titans. Especially being a Colts fan, I'm really hoping they lose this game. I think there could be an upset. I don't think it's going to happen because the Chiefs need to get their stuff together if they want to have any chance of winning this division that they're in now. So I think the Chiefs do that. They go and they get the win against Tennessee, and that really starts what could be a nice losing streak for the Titans coming up to help the Colts out. They play Buffalo on Monday night, which is by the time you're listening to this has already been played and we know the outcome of that. But then they have the Kansas City this coming week, Indianapolis, Los Angeles Rams, and New Orleans Saints following that. So 5 straight tough stretches for the Tennessee Titans. It could start a losing streak or add on to a losing streak, which will greatly benefit the Indianapolis Colts.
Greatly benefit the Indianapolis Colts because we know that the Texans and the Jags are nowhere near in the equation. So, and the Colts had their tough streak up front. I mean, they took it on the chin early, which may, if this works out this way and the Titans drop most of these games over this stretch and have a bruised ego headed in the second half of the season, but the Colts took it early and they can get the ship righted and get their confidence back and start picking up some wins, that could fare well for the Colts coming down that home stretch to win the division. So let's hope so. In the end, we're all three taking the Chiefs. You probably should too. All right, next game. Falcons at the Dolphins. Hefe, Zach said to me yesterday, we were watching the Jags and the Dolphins, and he said, well, thank God you got a Tampa Bay shirt. Also have a Tampa Bay shirt. We said a couple weeks ago the Dolphins are in trouble. I mean, penalties galore. You know what I say about penalties? It's a sign of a loose locker room. It's indicative of a lack of discipline. You know, some of your most hard-nosed, top-notch Hall of Fame coaches, they were famous for lack of penalties. The Dolphins have just been marred by penalties all season. And I hate to admit it, but bad coaching. There were some questionable moves by Flores yesterday that I think ultimately cost him the game. And I'll say it for probably the 12th to 15th time. I don't think Tua is the answer. You know, when we look at guys like Herbert and Jackson and Mac Jones and, you know, Tua's rating is hovering around 85 for the second year in a row. Herbert's QB rating is 100 for the second year in a row. Jackson's rookie season was 85, and then it shot up to 100. Mahomes' rookie season was 85. It shot up to 113. And Joe Burrow, who's currently also in his second year, he was 89. His QB rating was 89 last year, and it's currently around 108. I'm holding out a little bit. I want to give Tua a little bit here. He played behind Fitzmagic for half the season last year, where Joe Burrow was just thrown in there. He's got a little more experience on him. He played with a rib injury yesterday, and dude, that'll certainly cause you to not only play different physically, but different mentally as well. You know, always think you got sore ribs, and you're always thinking about taking the shot. That'll make you skittish. And I don't care how badass some of these delusional fans think they are, screaming from their couch after they've had 7 Coors Lights. Playing in the NFL with broken ribs has to be a psychological nightmare. So I want to give him that as well. And it's also my understanding, I think, Zach, you may have brought this up, that there's a team learning curve when you have a quarterback who's left-handed. And didn't one of you mention that to me?
Yep.
Was it you, Jeff?
It's how teams have to design the offense differently for a left-handed opposed to a right-handed quarterback.
Yeah, which I had never thought of before, but that makes complete sense. And so we'll see. But right now, it feels like the ship is sinking. It's ironic yesterday morning that the Dolphins and the Colts were both 1-4. They appeared to be in the same predicament. Was that right? They were 1-4, both 1-4.
Yep.
Yeah. But today, you know, after the games yesterday, it certainly appears there are two teams headed in two completely different directions. I just got a really bad feeling about the Dolphins franchise. I'm concerned as a Dolphins fan. The Jags, man, they lost to the fucking Jags.
And snapped that 20-game losing streak.
Well, I mean, the Jags, who should have a continuing longest losing streak in NFL history. It should be the longest losing streak. If it weren't for the Dolphins yesterday and the Colts last year in week 1, and the Colts the year before in the season finale. The Colts lost back-to-back to them. That's right. The Jacksonville Jaguars, one of the worst losing streaks in history, would be on a 22-game losing streak if it weren't for two of my favorite teams, the Dolphins yesterday and the Colts back-to-back the end of the season 2019 and the season opener last year. I don't even know how I feel about that. I don't know whether to be mad at the Dolphins and the Colts or be mad at the Jags. Fuck them Dolphins. Just kidding. Just kidding. I'm reserving that for the Vikings. I want to take the Falcons. After all that said, I want to take the Falcons, but all things being equal, I'm going with the home team. I think they'll get it turned around. They'll protect their home. They'll play a little better, whatever they need to do. I don't think the Falcons are good enough to come in and beat them. There's probably a little bit of bias there, but reluctantly, I'm taking the Dolphins.
So, the Dolphins are an interesting case, right? Because yesterday it felt like they played well enough to be able to win that game. But like you mentioned, there are just mistakes made, by either players or by the coaches. They end up losing to the freaking Jaguars, right? And look, the Dolphins on third down were 9 of 17, where the Jags were 3 of 12. When it came to the penalties, the Dolphins had 7 and the Jags had 8. Like the Dolphins, from looking at the entire stat sheet, you would think that the Dolphins won this game. Time of possession, everything in favor of the Dolphins, and they still found a way to lose. And that is very concerning to me. And with the Falcons, seems like they're figuring their offense out week to week. Calvin Ridley got his personal issue figured out. He's back at practice. He'll be back for the Falcons. And I think that the Falcons have enough firepower on offense to put up enough points here and beat the Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Hefe here. I like the Atlanta Falcons. The Miami Dolphins defense is just not the same defense as they were last year. And we've already harped on this time and time again. Tua is not the guy in Miami. They're having problems. Like Brad said, that there were very questionable coaching calls in their game on Sunday, and you just can't have that. You can't have the penalties. You can't give up the sacks. So everything does seem to be coming unglued for the Miami Dolphins, which is not good. The Atlanta Falcons aren't that much better. They've only beaten the New York Giants and the New York Jets this season. However, Matt Ryan is a seasoned veteran. He is capable of getting the ball downfield. Kyle Pitts is coming to his own. Calvin Ridley is going to be back. So especially if the Dolphins don't have Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, I think Matt Ryan's going to have a huge day, and the Falcons are going to come out on top.
Yeah, so you two are taking the Falcons, and I'm definitely maybe taking the Dolphins. You said they've only beaten the Jets and the Giants. Well, the Jags beat the Dolphins, so maybe I should definitely switch my pick. Maybe it is a little bit of emotional bias.
I don't know. I mean, they could. I mean, the Dolphins, deep at the core, we know they're an all right team. It's just not appearing to be that way this season. So they may have glimmers of hope that come out, and for a game or two, they may look like a really good football team. But I think long term, it's just not going to be that way.
Yeah, so you hope, because I do believe in what Brian Flores is doing. You hope that. I mean, this is the fork in the road, man. He's got to get control of what's happening, or he'll lose control. He'll just spin out of control, and then I don't know if he'll be able to get that back. And I'm not even talking about making the playoffs or making a run to the AFC Championship. I'm just talking about getting on the right side of 500. Tua's got some rib injuries. He's still a new quarterback that you can salvage a lot of the loyalty and in the locker room and get the team ready to look forward to next year. But if he doesn't, if they end up winning, 4 or 5 games with a penalty, he could very easily lose control of what's happening. And then they have to start all over. Again, we kind of mentioned this yesterday when we were talking, Zach, that I don't know at what point that Deshaun Watson starts to really become the hot topic in this equation. I mean, we're coming up on the deadline. The deadline's November 2nd. I know the Texans are asking for an enormous price. I mean, I just gave you those stats about QB ratings, and I know we get deeper into the stats, but and Tua's hurt and all that stuff. But we can look at guys like Joe Burrow and Herbert, and we can see where they have a future in this league. And Tua has not shown that he has a future yet. I don't know how long we wait for that to happen. Or Flores waits. That's the key. How long does Flores wait to see if that's going to happen before he makes a move? And if he doesn't do it quick enough, he's not the guy. Then it's going to mean the end of his tenure in Miami. So it's getting serious down in South Beach.
Yeah, it feels like if they don't do well, like if they only win 4 or 5 games this year, and then they come back out next year with the cap going up and everything, if they somehow don't get better next year, and Brian Flores is 2-6 to start the season or something crazy, he's probably going to get canned. It's that bad right now.
Well, and it doesn't bode well that he was stacked up with all those draft picks and they're still struggling. That doesn't look good either. That only adds fuel to the fire. But hopefully this conversation is for naught and they get it turned around and at least competitive. So, all right, next game, Jets at the Patriots. Love them or hate them, the Patriots are only a few plays away from being 4-2 with a rookie. Beelzebub might be onto something here. He might be effectively rebuilding this team. I don't know that they're contenders this year, but they are certainly going to smash the Jets' ass in Foxborough. There's no way the Jets go in there and get a win this week. Ain't going to happen. I'm taking the Patriots.
Yeah, this is going to be a big game for Zach Wilson and what he's going to look like in the future, because this is the first team that he's playing twice in the NFL now. And the first time around, this did not go well. That was a 4-interception game. So, especially on the road in this game up in Foxborough, it's going to be a big test for him and his team and to see where they are. But that team around him isn't very good either. So you have to imagine that the Patriots come out, get the easy win, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll kind of echo the same thing. The New York Jets just aren't a good football team overall, and Wilson may be able to make the adjustments and have a better game than his 210-yard, 4-interception, 0 touchdown first go-around with the New England Patriots. But it's Bill Belichick. He's one of the greatest defensive minds out there. I'm sure he will also change it up to keep Zach Wilson guessing. So for that reason alone, I'm going to take the Patriots.
All right, we are all three taking the Patriots, and you should too. All right, the next game up is the Panthers at the Giants. On the road or not, this is the Panthers' game to lose. The Giants aren't good, and they're banged up. And breaking news, the Giants still have not fired Jason Garrett.
I'm so glad somebody else said it.
I don't know why they haven't fired Jason Garrett, but they haven't. Maybe they're holding out. Maybe he's got a rib injury and they're, got a team adjustment. I don't know. Darnold is still figuring things out, but I think Darnold's got a future in this league. I'm excited to see how this year plays out for him, and maybe next year, hopefully, he can find his groove. Because I love any quarterback that highlights what an idiot Adam Gase is. The Panthers are up and down, but they can be dangerous. They'll put it together this weekend, and I'm not even sure this one will be close. I'm taking the Panthers.
This is one that I'm not sure how to feel about it, right? You would assume that Saquon's still going to be out. Possibility comes back maybe, but probably going to be out, right? But they don't have Kadarius Toney either, who started the Giants last game with 3 catches, 36 yards on the first drive, hurt his ankle, and that really hurt their offense going through. But as much as I want to have faith in the Giants that they can pull an upset, because look, the Panthers haven't looked great. Sam Darnold was just like 17 for 41. It did not look pretty for most of the day. And so, that offense without CMC really scares me, and it's hard to pick them. But the Giants' offense doesn't look much better. So to me, this is who has the better defense. I feel like Carolina does. They're getting healthy. Stephon Gilmore should be pretty close to getting in their lineup now that it's after Week 6. So I'm going to take the Panthers going on the road.
Yeah, I can't really add a whole lot to that. Hefe pretty much hit everything that I was going to discuss. The Panthers have kind of let me down. They started off hot, 3-0, wins over the Jets, the Saints, and the Texans, but the last three they've floundered. They lost by 8 to the Cowboys, by 3 to the Eagles, and in overtime by 6 to the Vikings. The Giants, they're just a complete mess. As far as Jason Garrett and Joe Judge go, if I was Judge, I'd be definitely getting rid of Jason Garrett sooner than later, because the longer he holds on to him, the more the blame is going to fall back on Joe Judge. So if he wants to keep his job as long as possible, he needs to get rid of Jason Garrett and try to make something happen, or he would definitely – both of them will be gone by the end of the season.
Look, even if he promotes someone who's the quarterback's coach or whatever, they can't do any worse than what Garrett's done.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm with you 100% there.
And it's a shame because, I mean, this Giants team, they have a lot of talent. They just can't stay healthy. They have poor coaching, and it's definitely showing. So, yeah, I'm going to take the Panthers here. I think it's going to be a bounce-back game for them after losing 3, and it's good timing for them as well, playing a banged-up Giants team. So I'm going with the Carolina Panthers. The Giants are going to fall down to 1-6, and the Panthers will move to 4-3.
All right. We are all three in agreement. We are all three taking the Panthers over the Giants, and you should too. All right. Next game is the Bengals at the Ravens. Big AFC North matchup with divisional implications. The Bengals need to tie the Ravens for the lead, I believe, and the Ravens are looking to create some space and assert their dominance in the AFC North. And the Bengals are dangerous, and they're ripe for stealing games. And I love to watch Burrow play. I mean, I'm not a Bengals fan, but this kid's exciting. He's definitely got a future here. But the light bulb appears to have gone off in Baltimore. Everything appears to be coming together. Jackson has the second most career 100-yard rushing games, which is 9, for a quarterback. So you know who's number 1?
Mike Vick.
Mike Vick, who has 10. Now here's what I want you to pay attention to. Mike Vick has 10 100-yard rushing games in 143 regular season games. Lamar Jackson has 9 in only 52. This record stands to be shattered. Shattered. This kid he's going to break this record this year, and he's going to absolutely obliterate that record, bar a disastrous career-ending injury, which I hope I didn't manifest that. I mean, I'd hate to see that for that kid. And not only that, the Ravens defense just stymied the Chargers offense and made Justin Herbert look like a completely different quarterback. This looks like the Ravens team that we have been talking about for over a year. This is the one we've been waiting to emerge. The one last year that all of us said probably would only lose 2 games last year. That we thought that they were maybe the top contender for the Super Bowl last year. If they keep clicking and heading in the direction, then they are going to be a serious threat to Buffalo for the top AFC team. I don't see that yet. But, any given Sunday, right, we put them in the AFC Championship, anything can happen. It's a long way off. Cincinnati wants something to say on all that. But there's no way, after what I've seen the last couple of games, that I'm picking against Baltimore in this game. I'm taking the Ravens.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel. Like, it's so hard to go against the Ravens. Even as good as the Bengals are, this being a division game, But look, John Harbaugh, with all the injuries that the Ravens are dealing with on both sides of the ball, there's no doubt in my mind John Harbaugh is coach of the year right now. I mean, he has to be the leader for that with what he's working with, and he's still 5-1. In the preseason, I predicted this Ravens team to go 15-2, and they look like they could be a team. It kind of looks like the Colts awoke a sleeping giant. And the last 5 quarters, they have just absolutely run through two teams that we think are on the up and up. And again, I want to be able to pick the Bengals here, but the Ravens are at home. This is a huge game, and the Ravens are doing to people what the Bills are. So I'm going to have to go with the Ravens here.
Yeah, I can't really argue much. I really wanted to take the Bengals just because they are pretty good. They are 4-2 on the year. They lost by 3 to Chicago in week 2, and they lost by 3 to the Green Bay Packers in week 5 in overtime. So the Cincinnati Bengals are legit themselves. But yeah, I'm going to echo the same thing you guys said. The Baltimore Ravens, man, they are on fire. They could be 2-4 right now, but good teams find a way to win. They were able to squeak out a win against the Kansas City Chiefs. They had that record-breaking field goal win over Detroit, and they came back and beat Indianapolis in overtime and then absolutely dismantled the Chargers. So, yeah, they're flying high. You got to roll with the Ravens over the Bengals. And this is my game of the week. This is the game I want to see the most. So I'm definitely going to be tuning into this one.
Yeah, I can't argue about. I definitely want to watch this game. And to the point I was making, the last 2 weeks beating Indianapolis, coming back and beating Indianapolis like they did. Indianapolis is starting, like Hefe said, is starting to wake up. And that Baltimore win in Indianapolis, that might be more on Baltimore than it was Indianapolis. They just found a way to just completely pick the secondary apart and just rolled right in at the end of the game, which again may be more on the Ravens organization than it was for the Colts to lose that game. And then what happened yesterday with the Chargers? The Chargers are a good team, and Baltimore just had their way with them. The rest of AFC probably ought to pay attention. This Ravens team might be, and it could be they matched up well. It could be things went their way. Dogs, the sun shines on a dog's ass every once in a while, kind of thing. But I don't think so. I think these 2 wins, these last 2 weeks, are big wins and are propelling this team forward. And they certainly have all the weapons they need to be destructive. And I think they'll do that Sunday. So we're all 3 taking the Ravens. I'm going to say you should too, but if you do and the Bengals win, don't yell at me. All right, next game, Eagles at the Raiders. We already talked about this. The Raiders are schizophrenic. I'm curious if yesterday was a kind of a screw you to the league, letting off some steam. We'll show you taking all the frustration out on the Broncos, or was Gruden holding them back in some capacity? And yesterday it just suddenly let loose. They don't have that kind of restriction. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll wait and see. But based on what the Raiders are capable of, what they've shown us in 4 games that I've seen them just be dominant in 4 games, and them being at home, I believe the Raiders should control this game. The Eagles are scrappy, and so I mean no disrespect to them. And trust me, anybody that's listening knows that I don't mind calling them out or making fun of them if they deserve it. But the Eagles are scrappy. And I don't know that this will definitely be a blowout per se. I just don't see the Eagles coming out on top at the end of the game, and I'm going with the Raiders.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts, to me, okay, so I guess I should start with the Raiders, because the Raiders, I think, you talked about, is Gruden the problem? Was he holding them back? That is exactly what I was thinking as I saw that game yesterday. Is that, I think he was holding back the offense from what it could be. I thought Josh Jacobs looked like Josh Jacobs again. They were able to get the run game going, which allows the passing game to be better. And look, the defense was able to force 3 turnovers on Teddy Bridgewater. I think the Raiders will be able to force turnovers on on Jalen Hurts. If you watch that Buccaneers-Eagles game on Thursday night, it was not pretty. Jalen Hurts missed a lot of balls. He did not have a good night, and that seems to be more of a regular occurrence than not. Jalen Hurts is most of that rushing attack too. That team doesn't run the ball, so that's something the Raiders won't even have to worry about. They don't have to stack the box at all and worry about that thing. They can set everybody in coverage, one person to spy Jalen Hurts and be fine. So I think the Raiders come in here, play a good game with a guy that a lot of people have talked very well about. I believe it's Rich Bisaccia, I think is how it's pronounced, and he seems like a guy that could be a good head coach. We know a couple other special teams coaches that is now doing really well as head coaches in the NFL. So I think that could be the guy, and the Raiders could be a problem for people going forward.
This is going to be my upset of the week here. I'm going to take the Eagles. The Eagles have a really good pass defense. I think they're going to step in and kind of hold up Carr and do just enough to squeak out the W here.
Well, I certainly didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I like to throw it in there. I was going to take the Raiders because I can't figure them out, right? They started off 3-0, but they had 2 overtime wins in those 3 games, and they got beat by 14 to the Chargers, and then they've lost to the Chicago Bears. Like, nobody saw that coming, but then they lose their head coach, and then they bounce back and they get a win in Denver against a struggling Broncos team. So I just can't figure them out. They're like 50-50. And like you said, the Eagles are scrappy. The 4 games they've lost to the 49ers, the Cowboys, the Chiefs, and the Buccaneers are all pretty decent teams, and they beat a solid Carolina team. So I think the Eagles are going to go in there and get it done.
So I think one important thing to remember about the Raiders is against the Bears, at the time of the Bears game, some of the emails from John Gruden had already come out. And there were a lot of people talking about last week how, like, if you go back and look at the film, which I did see a couple plays and it makes sense, like it just looked like the players weren't interested. They didn't care about the game. They didn't care about the situation. They were pretty much letting Gruden go down with the ship. And so, I think they were more spirited, more focused this last week, and it showed. And I think they'll be able to carry that forward.
Okay, so I hadn't heard that, and that poses an interesting question. Is it possible that the Raiders are Super Bowl contenders, and those 2 games that the players were really just giving up on Gruden, that they wanted to sabotage his career, and once he's gone, they turn it around? Zach, you're shaking your head. No, you don't think that's a possibility at all?
No, all right, so they won 2 games in overtime, week 1 against the Ravens and week 3 against the Dolphins, who we just talked about how they're coming apart at the seams. So
the Dolphins played a hell of a game that game, though. And beating the Ravens in overtime is no slouch. But your point's taken. Well taken.
Yeah, it's they could be 2-4 right now, but obviously they're not. They're 4-2, so my hat is off to them. I just don't think I have seen enough to warrant even being a playoff contender right now. Obviously they're in that discussion at the moment, but I don't know. My confidence with the Raiders just isn't there yet.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. Were you going to say something, Hefe?
Yeah, for the Raiders, I feel like their offense is week in and week out has the ability to be one of the best. And like I mentioned, I thought that with the new head coach coming in with some new energy, I thought that they were more energized in the run game, which is what we saw from the Raiders early on in 2020 when they were successful. As long as they stay with that formula, and Derek Carr looks great, Henry Ruggs is doing well in his second year, and they have Darren Waller. I think as long as that defense can be consistent enough to keep them in games, that offense can win them a lot of games.
Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see. New coach energy is funny because new coach energy a lot of time has the ability to push a team over the edge and push them towards greatness, get them over a hump they couldn't get. But sometimes it's temporary and it lasts a couple games and then it drops off. So we'll see what the coaching staff can do to maintain that level, and it'll be interesting to watch the Raiders and see what happens from here. So Zach is taking the Eagles, and Hefe and I are taking the Raiders at home. Next game up, Lions and the Rams. Look, man, I have to say something, and this is about as sincere as you'll ever hear me get on this show. I hate what the Lions fans are going through. Right? I make fun of Jacksonville. Jacksonville's not a real franchise, and just kidding. Lions fans have been Lions families have been Lions fans for generations. You know, and my dad's family's from Michigan, and I remember watching the Lions as a kid, and they've got that loyalty there, and they just don't ever get rewarded for it. And I just hate what they're going through. And I have to wonder, after the score the other day, what happened yesterday. We talked about how scrappy they are, and Campbell's got them fighting. And then yesterday was like a no-show. I don't know if the Bengals are that good, or if the other shoe's starting to drop in Detroit, and Campbell's career is almost over there. I don't even know what to say, but I can tell you one thing: this game in Los Angeles is going to be ugly.
That's how I feel too. This one's going to get real ugly real quick and stay that way for most games. The Rams in this last game, they rested their starters in the fourth quarter. I expect that to happen again. They're going to absolutely obliterate the Lions. I have no idea what has happened to them. I don't know if it's a week-to-week thing. They get heartbroken and then they do a little better, and then they get heartbroken again and then they do a little better. But I mean, we're talking about the Rams here. And look, Coach Campbell just called out his quarterback in the post-game presser, saying that he thinks Jared Goff needs to step up more. So it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic goes, calling out your players in the media like that. That's usually something you do privately and talk about that. So
after they gave up 34 points, he blamed his quarterback.
Right.
There's a problem. You know what? If Stafford needs to step up, if Goff needs to step up, then Goff needs to step up. I'm all with that. But when you gave up 34 points to boot, you can't blame shift. You got to be a man, stand up and take it, and call him into the red room and give him the riot act there. But don't do it publicly. If the score had been 12-11 and you made him kick 4 field goals, we're having a different conversation. But I don't know, just my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And all that going into, it seems like the Lions might go 0-17, and they're definitely not beating the Rams, so I'm taking the Rams at home.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add. 99% of everybody on the ESPN Pigskin Pick'em is taking the Los Angeles Rams, and I am also right there with them.
All right, so we're all three taking the Rams, and if I've ever said this and really meant it, you should do.
Yeah.
All right, next game up is the Texans at the Cardinals. Speaking of ugly, the Texans showed how good the Colts truly are yesterday. But by all rights, the Cardinals, and rightfully so, are considered by almost everyone else to be much better than the Colts, simply because their record speaks for itself. They're 6-0, and they're beating some good teams to get there. But the Colts blew the Texans out all over the place. So if you want to mark this down, walk this from logic point to logic point, this also will be ugly.
Yes, it will. We just saw the Cardinals blow out the Browns, and the Texans just got blown out. So, this could be, maybe a 20, 30, 40-point game by the end of it. Maybe Tyrod comes back this week. I haven't really heard anything about it, so I wouldn't expect that. But either way, Tyrod would make it a little better, but the Cardinals are going to absolutely slaughter the Texans this week.
Yeah, once again, 99% of people on ESPN Pigskin Pick'em are taking the Arizona Cardinals, and I am one of them.
99%. I want to meet these 1%ers. They're this. Are they the same people that were picking Gase to win games last year? I mean, I don't know. Of course, I don't know what the Miami Jags percentages was last week. I wish we could go back and look at that, but that'd have been interesting to see. Anyway, ain't gonna happen. All right, next game up: Bears and Bucks. Oh, by the way, we're all taking the Cardinals, and you should too. Next game up: Bears and Bucks. Speaking of ugly, is there an echo in here? Is there an echo in here? Is there an echo in here?
Seems like it, yeah.
Bears on the road going to Tampa with absolutely nothing to threaten them with. I am curious. I haven't looked. How many quarterbacks does Chicago have now?
It's 3, right?
Oh, just 3. I haven't picked any new. I haven't been keeping up. I didn't know if they added a couple recently or.
Nah, they're too busy trying to find running backs because every single one they get gets injured.
Okay. Well, I was going to say maybe a fourth quarterback would help them against the Bucks. Just kidding. Nothing is going to help them against the Bucks. Brady's going. Rodgers owned them last week, and he's transferring ownership to Brady this weekend.
Yeah, I can't really say it any better than that. You know, with Justin Fields at quarter, it doesn't really matter who the quarterback is and who's calling the plays at this point. Like the Bears are not putting up points. You know, the one Justin Fields win was against a team that was basically, you know, half-assing it for the guy that was coaching him. So, no, there's no confidence coming into this game that the Bears can even compete. This should be another, you know, 2 or 3 score game.
Yeah, 97% of ESPN Pigskin Pick'em players are taking the Tampa Bay Bucks. I am one of them, and you should too.
Bro, 3% are actually, there's a higher percentage taking the Bears than was taking the Texans and what was the other game? The Lions?
Yep.
Maybe it's because Chicago's a bigger city and they have a higher percentage of delusional fans.
So I was just about to say it's got to be because of the population of Chicago.
Wow. Okay. You know what we need to do? We need to, let's do this. We're going to set up on horsemansports.com. We're going to set up a poll on who should be fired first. And we're going to have Dan Campbell, Matt Nagy, and Jason Garrett. We'll throw a couple other names on there. And we want to hear from everybody. We want to hear from you. Go on there and vote. And we'll talk about it next week of who should be fired first in this season. All right. Next game up, Indianapolis Colts, the San Francisco 49ers. This is a big game for the Colts. With, by all rights, they should have beaten the Ravens. And we talked about that. Kudos to the Ravens for putting that drive. So many Colts fans I'm tired of hearing this Reich should be fired bullshit. I'm so over it. I mean, this guy has pieced together an awesome roster, and they've had nothing but weird stuff happen to them. Injuries are part of the game. I get it. There's just been all kinds of weird stuff that's happened. He hasn't had enough time to put things together with Wentz. Give the guy a break. They were in Baltimore, and they had him on the ropes, and then Baltimore put together an amazing drive. You can't take that away from them. They throttled the Texans yesterday, clearly showing the separation and the tiers of where they're at. They're going to be on the road in San Francisco. This is a big win right here. They need to put this together. I think they can put it together. It scares me because the 49ers are tough. I think they're tougher than their record shows. And they're at home. It's a long way out there. But I think the Colts believe. I think they know what they're capable of. I think they believe in Reich's vision. I think they know that they're capable. Things are starting to come together. Hopefully this is Wentz's true breakout game, and he just lets it fly all over the damn place and propel the Colts one more step towards the playoffs. So I'm taking the Colts.
You know, you mentioned, we had talked about, the Colts Ravens. That was a Monday night game. We hadn't had a chance to talk about that. And the one thing, since we hadn't talked about it, I just want to say on the kick that could have won the game for the Colts when they had Carson Wentz put it in the middle of the field. What my thinking was that I thought because Calais Campbell was closer to the right hash, he was on, from where Hot Rod was, he was on the right side. And so I thought they would put it on the right hash so that Hot Rod could angle it more left, but they put it in the middle of the field. Had they put it on the right hash, he hits the field goal at the angle it was. He would have hit that field goal if it was on the right hash. So, that was the big mistake for me. Coach Reich, he had an amazing last two games, for the criticism that he's taken, and rightfully so. He's done really well as a play caller over the last two games. His decision making over the last two games has been good. And Carson Wentz is balling out right now. In the last three games, ever since that tough Titans loss, Carson Wentz has been amazing for the Colts. And as long as that defense can hold up, we'll be all right. The injuries, I think Rock Ya-Sin going out is probably better for the Colts. It sucks that, we don't want to see anybody get hurt. But Isaiah Rodgers got an interception yesterday that Rock Ya-Sin would have never been in position for, never would have made that play. So I'm glad he's playing. Xavier Rhodes being on the field is a big deal. And look, T.Y. Hilton coming back re-energized this team. There was a pregame speech that all the guys were talking about, and it seems like this team knows what they're playing for. They're getting better every week. And I think the 2021 Colts and 2020 Colts, their starts to the season have been similar in the way that the team builds up. It's just the schedule this year was much more difficult. There's a lot less room for error this year going forward. But going up against San Francisco, who's coming off a bye week, this is definitely going to be a tough game. It's on prime time. It's on the road. I'm hopeful that the Colts can win this game. I think they can. I will be taking the Colts. I think this is going to be a great game, though. I think this is going to be a great matchup. And like I said, this one scares me a little bit from what we've seen in the first 6 weeks from the Colts, but I'll be taking the Colts.
Yeah, so I'm not as high on the 49ers as you guys have been this season. So with my original predictions on the season, and we've had a lot of injuries and a really slow start. We had a tough 5-game stretch to start the season. We came out 1-4, but then ended up bouncing back and picking up our second win in week 6. So I believe I originally had the Colts 13-4 on the season, and we're 2-4 now. So to reach that 13-4 mark, we have to win out 9 more games.
Is that what we're doing then?
I won't go that far to say that's going to happen. However, I will say that I know how good of a team the Colts can be. If everything comes together, which it appears that is starting to happen, and if we can get the injuries under control and get everybody back and healthy, not even everybody, because I know that's almost nearly impossible, but some of these key guys, get them on the field, keep them healthy, the Colts can beat anybody. And I think that they will go into San Francisco and come out with a victory.
Yeah, and to your point, looking ahead, I mean, the Colts need this game. They absolutely need this game, because looking ahead, we've got the Jags, which for some reason we can't beat the Jags. But seriously, we have the Bills, the Buccaneers, the Patriots, which they're coming to Indianapolis, so that one that might just be old school nerves, past history trauma coming into play. But the Cardinals and the Raiders, which we'll see what the Raiders team looks like by then. But this is a big game. They got to win this game. There's a couple games they could drop through here, and we're looking for the Titans to take a slide. So they know that. I'm sure they've talked about that. They've all looked at the schedule. They know what's up. I know they would give us we're only focusing on Sunday, which is I hope exactly what they're doing, and I hope they come away with a victory. So we're all three taking the Colts this weekend.
I'll tell you what, if the Colts, with this kind of schedule that the Colts have, if they can make it to the playoffs, they're going to be a problem. Like, we got a murderer's row kind of schedule. Like, teams that we've already played, the teams that you just named off, like, they're all playoff teams. So, it's tough schedule. It's going to be tough sledding. But if they get there, I have a lot of confidence in them.
Well, yeah. Remember we talked about that at the beginning of the season, that they had 7 teams that had more than 10 wins last year on the schedule. That's just ridiculous. It's absolutely incredible. So, but excuses. Nobody asks. Nobody in 20 years. Nobody be like, well, who won the Super Bowl? Well, somebody. But the Colts had. Nobody cares. So, we either get it done or we don't. And hopefully, this will be the next step in that direction. All right, Saints at Seahawks, the last game on Monday night. Speaking of adding Pete Carroll to the coaches poll, we shouldn't, because Wilson's injury is going to help Pete Carroll deflect responsibility for a slowly sinking ship just a little bit longer. He's going to be able to be like Dan Campbell. He's going to get away with what Dan Campbell can't, and that's completely blame his quarterback for not winning. He's going to Geno Smith is going to get 98% of the blame for the mediocrity that has settled into Seattle. I don't care if this is in Seattle or not. I think Sean Payton can exploit all that is wrong in Seattle and improve the Saints to 4-2, and hopefully drop the Seahawks to 2-4.
This is going to be a really dangerous game for the Seahawks. I just don't see a way where they have a chance to come out on top, right? Because they have there's a list of names, key starters that they haven't had, that they might get back either this week or next week. There are a lot of them coming back this week against the Seahawks after a bye week, which includes Michael Thomas and Traquan Smith. Those are receivers that they very much need. Left tackle, Teron Armstead. Center, Eric McCoy. Defensive tackle, David, I'm not even going to try to say his last name. Defensive end, Marcus Davenport. Linebacker, Quan Alexander. And kicker, Will Lutz. They're supposed to be getting all these guys back from injuries. Those guys make this team ridiculously dangerous. They're coming off a bye week. And look, if Jameis Winston has time in the pocket, he can make things happen. And the Seahawks defense is not very good. They will not get a pass rush on him, and he's getting some offensive linemen back. So I think that Monday night could get a little ugly here, and the Saints are going to win on the road.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm not big on the Seahawks. I haven't been even before this whole Russell Wilson injury thing. I think they're heading the wrong way, and the Saints are a pretty good football team. They've had some struggles with injuries starting out, but have they just listed off a massive list of guys that they're going to have back? So I like the Saints big here.
All right. We are all three taking the Saints over the Seahawks on Monday Night Football. And that does it for this week. We want to remind you to please be sure to show us some love and like, share, and subscribe. Tell all your friends, and be sure to also tell them, send your grandma a text right now. Tell her that she can catch the weekly rundown and the Fantasy Draft Central show on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern on WUBI Ubiquity Radio. More information at WUBI.live. And it's never too late to join us in the Pigskin Pick'em Challenge. Find the link pinned at the top of our Facebook and Twitter pages at Horsemen Sports, or just search for Horsemen Sports, the top of the ESPN Pigskin Pick'em site. Easy enough to find. Just Google it. We announce the weekly winners each week on the show. And again, congratulations to Trey Davis for winning week 6. And of course, we will see you back here again next week for week 8. Until then, thanks for joining us. Deuces.